You know, the risk of frost is done, we hope.
I
mean, we think so, right? It's almost July. And a lot of gardeners across the state have seedlings in the ground, and we're waiting to see things really bloom.
Yeah, we've got Yukon Master Gardener Sarah Bailey back with us here this morning. And Sarah, you're going to help us go through what it takes to plant a pollinator garden, right?
That's correct.
First of all, I know that we talked about this before, but what does a pollinator garden really entail?
A pollinator garden entails having the flowers that the various insects, butterflies, dragonflies, lots of little beetles and such need for nutrition, and also to have some of the plants that the immature forms of those insects need.
Okay, why is this important to have pollinator gardens?
Because 1 out of every 3 bites of food that we eat, it requires a pollinator. That's number one, very self-interested on that.
Yeah.
And 2, because we've gotten to a point where we've planted so many plants that are not part of the ecosystem that the general ecosystem around us is in trouble.
And what are those plants called? Is there a certain name for them?
Well, you can be talking about native plants, which are the plants that the insects have developed with, but mostly we're looking for plants that have good flowers that these insects want.
Gotcha.
So you were here earlier this week, and you have gotten the garden started, cleaned out a little bit. I know Scott kind of helped weed, maybe a little.
A little bit here and there.
A little bit of weeding. So what do we have that we can start working on today?
So what we're starting with here are plants that are blooming now. Our goal is for this garden to have something in bloom throughout the entire season. If you're talking about perennials, plants that come back year after year, they don't necessarily have flowers all summer long. So we've added some annual plants, the ones that we put in every year, which will flower all summer. So we're going to have a combination of both. Here we've got plants that bloom this time of year, and we're going to add to this over the course of the summer, so that by the end of the summer, you have a garden that will bloom from last frost to first frost with very little work on your part.
Okay, I know these are marigolds, but can you kind of walk us through what each plant is? So
we've got salvia, sage, we've got yarrow, we've got agastaki, which will start blooming in another week or so, and we have coreopsis, which will start blooming in about 2 weeks. So we've got the sequence for right now.
And which ones are perennials and
these
annuals?
These are perennials.
Perennials
all of these
here.
are perennials.
And then the annuals on the
ends.
Those are shade annuals. Those are the impatiens, and then we have ones that prefer sun, which are the marigolds.
Nice, beautiful. So, and then again, just to reiterate, because you want things that are blooming continuously, because that's what attracts
because the insects need it continuously. So the next time we come back, there will be plants here. These will probably be done blooming. I will have put in more perennials that will be blooming in July.
Great.
And then we'll put in more that will bloom in August and September. Also having, again, some of the annuals so that there's something blooming if there's a cycle time that happens to be a little flowerless.
So you obviously have a lot of background with the types of plants that would do well, sun, shade, annuals, perennials. If we don't have that knowledge, can we ask somebody at the florist?
Absolutely. You call the Master Gardener Program at Yukon. There is an office in every single extension office. There's one in each county. Or talk to your local garden centers. They usually have somebody who's going to have pretty good knowledge.
I think we forget the amazing resources that are literally at our fingertips.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, we talked about this last year when you came to help show Scott and I how to actually plant a garden. But you get overwhelmed, you know? You're afraid that you're going to buy all these things, it's going to turn brown, it's not going to succeed. But you just ask. If you don't know, ask.
And let me show you a quick, simple tip that everybody's going to come across right now, which is if you're buying plants at this point and you take them out of their pot and you're ready to put them in the ground, and this one doesn't want to come out because they're so root bound.
I was going to say, you just kind of
don't be afraid.
Loosen them up
a little bit.
Break up the roots, let them know there's a world outside, pop them in. I'll put that in properly in a moment, and they're good to go.
All right, I have maybe a little silly question, but again,
no such thing.
No such thing, yes. How do you know how far down to put these plants in?
So generally you're going to want to put them in at about the same depth as they are in the pot. You don't want to put them in any deeper. If anything, if you have to do it, make them a little proud of the soil. But basically that same level. And you'll notice that these have some space between them. They're going to get bigger.
Right.
Because these are perennials and they're going to come back every year, they're going to get bigger. I've given them room to grow into each other.
How much space? A few inches?
You have to look up the plant.
Okay,
you
usually
have to
they
see what
say
its
that
adult
on
size
the thing.
is going to be.
So those little cards that come with everything.
They have all the information.
They have all that,
You can look all of that kind of stuff
and then
up,
there's always the internet. There's a lot of information out there. Or call us.
Call, yes, exactly.
And what is your number?
For the Hartford area, 860-409-9053.
Look at that. I put you on the spot, too. I'm impressed.
That was
Wow.
incredible. All right, so Sarah, this is obviously not related to the pollinator aspect, but we're going into what potentially could be the first heat wave next week. How do we make sure that our plants don't die?
You want to make sure they're well watered. These are actually a little bit dry this morning. I'll be watering them when we're done. You want to water deeply so that the roots are reaching down
Really
for water.
saturated?
Really saturated, and then wait a couple of days. So you don't want to be watering them every day. You want to water them deeply, come back 3 or 4 days later, put your fingers down in the soil, a couple of knuckles. If it's still moist down there, damp down there, you're fine. If not, water.
Best to water in the morning, early in the morning, or later
Early
in the evening?
morning, late in the afternoon.
Okay.
If you're doing late in the afternoon, try not to get the foliage. You don't want it going into the night damp.
Right.
Good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great information. Thank you so much, Sarah. We love when you come here.
I love being here.
And tell us how to have some green thumbs.
I know. Thank you
We're
so
equipped with all
much.
that information. Scott will be back tomorrow. Kate, it was always a pleasure. We have so much fun
Same.
here.
Yes.
And we'll see you tomorrow on Great Day at 9 a.m.